Well, we've got multiple updates from James Gunn himself on the upcoming DC Universe. Let's take a couple minutes to talk Batman, Wonder Woman, and all those projects that, well, we haven't gotten any updates for in a really long time. Are they still happening? Well, as many of you know, since James Gunn took over the DC Universe, well, quite honestly, things have gotten really complicated. He definitely moved away from the old DCEU and is rebooting the whole kit and caboodle, kicking it off with Creature Commandos this fall, and then next year, The Man of Steel comes back to theaters in July. Now, being head of DC Films, he's constantly fielding questions, and honestly guys, I really do love the fact he interacts with fans so much and gives us direct answers. Brad Winderbaum has started to do this for Marvel, but Gunn's response to stuff is very akin to Greg Weisman in Young Justice and provides fans with clarity, and that helps set expectations. Now, in the last couple of weeks, there have been quite a few rumors he's debunked, and he doesn't hesitate to slap things down. And we're going to talk about the Batman rumor that he did slap down, some of his comments on Wonder Woman and finding the right actress for that, as well as what is and isn't in development, and how that actually happens, because there's a lot of misconceptions from fans. Let's start off with Batman. Now, about a week ago, we started to see multiple reports from the various scoopers that there was a very specific type of Batman they were looking for, and this was going to be an older version of the character. There were multiple outlets suggesting this could be someone in their late 40s, and given there may have been multiple versions of Robin, we are getting Damian, and we know Jason Todd and Dick Grayson are coming to life. Well, this guy was likely Batman for a long time, and that story kind of got a life of its own. Now, when Gunn was asked directly about the story though, he slapped it down with one word, and that word was bullshit. Now, he didn't expand beyond that, and I don't think we're going to have a young man as Batman, but I also don't think we're going to have an older guy as Batman, and we're definitely not talking about a 60-year-old version of Hal Jordan. Now, will he be veteran and grizzled? Probably, but I am not expecting a Dark Knight Returns style version of the character, and I think he'll stick closely to the comics. The casting of Batman is going to be huge, and they're going to get this one right. He is one of the big three, and obviously Gunn is very involved with casting any of these characters. Now, what's interesting is these main three castings are still a hot topic of discussion that Gunn has been replying to, and that brings us to Wonder Woman. Now, a couple of days ago over on Threads, Gunn was asked an interesting question. One fan had pointed to a couple of comic panels and said that Superman should always be taller than Batman, and Wonder Woman should be taller than them both. Now, honestly, I am pretty okay with Superman being taller than Batman, at least by an inch or two, but getting a taller Wonder Woman, well, that's going to be a challenge. And interestingly enough, that's exactly what Gunn said. When he was asked how he felt about this, he said, and I quote, "Not good. I don't know where I'd find an accomplished and talented actress 6'5" or over." Now, obviously, one of the first people everybody suggested was Gwendolyn Christie, who played Lucifer in Sandman and Bree of Tarth in Game of Thrones, but then he pointed out that even she is shorter than David Cornsweet, who comes in at 6'4". Now, obviously, whoever plays Wonder Woman is completely up in the air, and this is a really particular challenge because Gunn is not wrong. There are very few actresses that are 6'5" or taller, and quite honestly, there is a challenge finding actresses over 6 foot. Almost all the male parts he has cast so far are big men. David Cornsweet is 6'4", Edie Gathegi is 6'1", Aaron Pierre and Nicholas Hoult are both 6'3". I had no idea Nicholas Hoult was that big. Nathan Fillion is 6'2", John Cena and Sean Gunn are both 6'1", and Kyle Chandler comes in at a solid 6 feet. And for me, it looks like James Gunn is almost recruiting an offensive line to make up his new Justice League. This does kind of make a lot of sense because you want these guys to be huge and menacing, and many people kind of overestimate how tall many actors are on screen. It's often shot in a way to make you feel like they're taller, but this group is absolutely huge and quite honestly will tower over most of the supporting cast. I think this is pretty great and it'll definitely help these characters stand out. Now, one other big update Gunn gave was on the production of various projects. We've been getting a lot of news for stuff that's happening, and we've even had some new projects added to the slate. But people are a little concerned about things they haven't heard about that were part of the initial announcement. And Gunn was flat out asked if The Authority is in pre-production or a project that's sitting dormant, kind of suggesting that some of these projects might not even make it into production. Now, Gunn's had a couple layers of response to these, and most of them have, well, provided some clarity. Now, the initial question he answered by saying there were only two options. Some scripts are in development, either looking for writers or being written or rewritten. And then once they're done and they're greenlit, then they are in production. definitely distinguishing between in development and in production. Now, this was picked up on by a lot of press, and since then Gunn has issued another clarifying statement saying, and I quote, "I said everything we originally announced was still in development, not that it's still coming. That all depends on the scripts. We never put a half-assed script in production just because it was announced." Now, these two things seem to fly in the face of each other, so I wanted to provide a little bit of clarity, at least how I see it. Feels to me like Gunn is making it really clear. If the script and the story are not going to support the production, that production might not happen. This means that they've gone through multiple iterations of a character, tried to get the story right, and it's failing, well, the door is open to shelving that project because they don't believe they can get it right if they can't get the script right in the first place. Now, as a fan, this does make me happy, because I only want quality films coming from DC Studios. But as far as fan expectations go, I would have to encourage Gunn and DC Studios to be really careful about announcing projects that never come to fruition. One of the biggest things that hurt the old DCEU was the slew of announcements that never happened. The Batman movie and the Cyborg film are at the top of my mind, things that fans still want to this day. I still see daily posts about Ben Affleck's Batman, and by setting those expectations and then not delivering, he could find himself in a very similar spot as his predecessors. Now, this past weekend saw the release of the Superman movie, which focused on the life of Christopher Reeve that is actually from DC Studios, and DC Studios also has the Penguin series going on, so they're off to a pretty good start. They have made it pretty clear the new Joker film is not under the new label, and we're just a few weeks from Creature Commandos with a potential premiere in just a couple of days at CCXP, so stay tuned for that because we're going to have a lot of DC news in the next couple of weeks. So what do you guys think? Do we need a tall Wonder Woman to be part of the new DC universe? Does Batman need to be middle-aged? And should Gunn stick to the announcement schedule or make sure the scripts are definitely worth making? Tell me what you think in the comments below. Now, before you take off, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, ring that bell for all the updates, and make sure you get every notification because we do daily Marvel and DC content and we don't want you to miss any news.